DDG episode 169. My name is Dave Hunt, and I'm joined by Michael Swick.
How's it going, Dave? How's it going?
It's good. How are you?
Doing good. Just been busy with work. Today's been like one of those work days, and I know you've had a hell of a time at work, but I am here to talk about video games, and we got some stories this week. We got some stories. Yeah. A couple PSA related type stories of just like, hey guys, just a heads up, shit's going away.
Yeah. All right, so we are Digital Days Gaming. We're a weekly podcast that posts every Thursday morning on podcast services around the world. If you're able to leave us a review on those services, that is extra helpful to allow more people to access the show, find it on algorithms and all those search engines. We also stream on Twitch, twitch.tv/digitaldaysgaming. So you can just search that on Twitch. We are a Twitch affiliate, so you can subscribe to us, whether you want to do that as a paid subscription or you want to link your Amazon account and your Twitch account and get Prime Gaming, and you get a free subscription of your choice there. So as we've been streaming a little bit more, been seeing the sub numbers increase or move up, which is always helpful. So if for some reason you're missing some of the random live streams that I've done, mostly Destiny related the last week or two, and you still want to support us, as always, following on Twitch is free. Downloading or subscribing to the podcast is free. Following us on social media, that's all linked in the show notes, is free. And then if you want to pay to subscribe to us on Twitch, you can do that. If you want to pay to support us on Patreon, you can do that as well. All of those links are in the show notes. Just keep in mind that your Twitch subscription, if you use that, doesn't auto-renew. So whether we're live or we're not live, if it's on your mind, just go ahead and either on mobile or on a browser, go to the store or to the Twitch and check it out. And you can just subscribe to us even if we're not live. So it doesn't auto-renew, and it will tell you when it expires also. So if you're like, it expires in 2 days and you're one of those people that likes to set a reminder on your phone or on your calendar, you can do that, and that would be great to make sure that you keep your streaks and stuff, and you get a couple different badges. We do need to work on Twitch a little bit more of as I'm getting more comfortable with my new PC, tweaking some stuff and changing some stuff to make the experience better for all of the viewers and for us when we stream. But other than that, I would love for you to check that stuff out, and we're going to jump right into the news.
Yeah, there's a little bit of news, kind of funny timing. Valve, out of nowhere, announced Counter-Strike 2 is coming this summer. The reason the timing is funny is they made this announcement when Epic is doing their GDC keynote, talking about like the future of Epic and the Epic Game Store and Fortnite. So Valve decided, like, let's announce a sequel that has been kind of long overdue, and could be risky for Valve. Not a ton of information out just yet. There's a couple little teaser trailers, but basically Counter-Strike 2 is going to be an update to Counter-Strike Go. This new version of Counter-Strike Go, aka Counter-Strike 2, will bring over player stats and unlocks from Go, but it's going to include major overhaul to the visuals that basically they're describing as brighter, cleaner, better looking maps that utilize the Source Engine 2. So significantly better textures and a more modern lighting system. Counter-Strike 2 will launch this summer with beta testing beginning today for select Go players. So basically how they're going to do that is they're going to actually look at your playtime and how recent you played Go to determine if you're going to get access to the ongoing beta that's going to go up until the summer. So they're going to really reiterate on this. Just for reference, Counter-Strike Go launched in 2012, and it's been consistently around 1 million players a month. It peaks. Its recent peak was like 1.4 million players back in February, but on average, it averages like 800,000 players a month since, the last like couple years. This is a kind of a big sequel. This is a big deal for PC players. No word on if this will come to console. Counter-Strike Go did come to console on PS3 and 360 back in the day, but that did not last too long in terms of the player base. Dave?
Is there a difference between Counter-Strike Go, and Counter-Strike 2?
So Counter-Strike is the original. There's Counter-Strike Source, which is like an offshoot. And then Counter-Strike Go was the sequel to Counter-Strike 1.
So Counter-Strike Go is the one that's been out since 2012.
Yes.
Okay.
So it's been a while. And then basically because there's so much into like their loot box system, their gun skins, it makes sense that they would just basically facelift go into 2, so they can at least keep all of that
Well,
stuff.
it seems to be par for the it seems to be par for the course. Overwatch kind of merging or eliminating Overwatch 1 and putting it into 2, so you're not splitting your player base. I would assume that Counter-Strike Go will eventually merge into Counter-Strike 2. From a competitive esports standpoint, Counter-Strike is kind of like up there, right? Like
yes.
in terms of, competitive, like player versus player shooter, the crazy balanced, like really a skill based, like truly a skill based game. Like if you are highly skilled, you can play Counter-Strike and you can succeed in Counter-Strike. If you're not highly skilled, you just get drug.
Yes.
So, I mean, I think that obviously this has its own unique audience, and obviously it can hold its own unique audience. And it seems like whenever Valve talks, everybody pays attention.
Yeah,
everybody pays attention.
They don't talk often, and that usually builds up their hype when they do make announcements.
I've never played this, so
I think you would like it. How were you with SOCOM back in the day?
Never played it.
Never played it. Okay,
because
yeah. That's like
I think that the first turnoff is similar to my Valorant turnoff, is that I'm just too old and stubborn to try to learn keyboard and mouse at this point in time.
Yeah.
And I think you have to play Counter-Strike with keyboard and mouse, just like Valorant doesn't have any controller support either. And that's fine. Like that's its own thing. Even with some of these, I've been privileged with some of these Rocat peripherals and stuff like that. Like I haven't really ever tried. I'm sure if I decided like on a Saturday afternoon to sit here and try and beat my head against the wall like I do in some other content, like I'm sure I could eventually be okay with it. I just don't know if I had the patience for it anymore.
Yeah, or
anymore or at all, just to do it at all.
Yeah, the thing with Counter-Strike is they did talk a little bit about like, hey, we're still going to support like the mod and a content creator like avenue, which is good because that's a big thing about Counter-Strike is the amount of stuff that the community creates in terms of maps, to where someone like you, Dave, could have fun with Counter-Strike if you stay away from the competitive scene. Like,
right.
Gun Game, which is like now associated with Call of Duty, that originated with Counter-Strike, and that was like a main thing in Counter-Strike and some of the crazy maps people make.
So you're saying that a first-person shooter copied another first-person shooter?
Yes, no. Yes, and one just happens to be a little bit more name recognition. So there's a ton of stuff in Counter-Strike that hopefully they'll able to maintain, and that's always been kind of a thing. Because I'm an old school Counter-Strike player. I was into Counter-Strike 1, and I was really into Counter-Strike Source, and Counter-Strike Source was the one that seemed to have a little bit more fun with like mods and stuff. So I'm hoping they can find a nice balance of like bringing all of the Counter-Strikes in to its own thing, and it sounds like that's what they're aiming to do. And I do appreciate that they're doing like a potentially long beta before the game comes out.
This is like their version of early access. So
yeah, this is how they're going to do it. And I do like that they are actually looking at player data in terms of like who's getting into it, as opposed to just making it open and then just...
Yeah. It's free to play also usually, right?
Yeah, Counter-Strike Go is free to play, and since Go is turning into 2, I'm assuming it will be free to play when it launches.
So I mean, just whenever, like if this beta's out and this beta's live today or tomorrow, just be ready for this game to be, if you pay any attention to Twitch, this will be in the top 3 on Twitch, if not the top spot for the next 10 days minimum.
Yeah, especially if they bring like those major influencers in a community into the beta.
Which they will.
They will, depending on if they want to show off the game.
Yeah.
Already.
Like, they might not be ready enough for a top tier player to play it. And that would also, be, somewhat communicated to their streamers, because I'm sure that any of their top tier streamers, content creators were knowing about this and had a heads up about this beforehand. So
yeah. Because you have to take care of the streamers at this point, because if it is ready to be shown to people and they didn't loop in the top Counter-Strike streamers, then there'll be drama in the community. But from there, we'll see what happens. But you're right, this will probably be all over Twitch, regardless of who's been invited or not. All right, our next story. This one's just a little bit of a PSA. If you're listening to this when the podcast releases Thursday, the Wii U and 3DS eShops are closing, and they will be... closing March 27th, so they'll be closing on a Monday, so you still have time to pick up this stuff before it goes away forever. No new purchases will be possible March 27th and beyond, but you will be able to download your previous purchases. A YouTube streamer, The Completionist, did find out.
I just read that.
If you want to buy everything on the 3DS store and the Wii U store, it's going to cost you roughly $22,791. So if you got the money to spare, you can buy everything on the shops.
If you have that much money to spare, patreon.com/digitaldaysgaming.
Yeah, you might as well. It's funny. I don't own a 3DS. I'd have to check with Sarah.
Yeah, that was gonna be my next question. So like none of these games are playable on any other platform, right? They're not backwards compatible, cross compatible, because it's a 3DS, which was their own screen technology, and Wii U, which you needed the tablet for.
And Nintendo's been really milking the Wii U by remaking them for the Switch. So
correct,
you haven't been able to bring your previous downloads.
So, and I mean, if you have these consoles, like, and there's some things that you want, like, go get it, and if you don't do it. Like, but I mean, it's not expected. I mean, I guess the Wii U was right before the Switch, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that feels like so long ago. And I would venture to guess this is 70%. That cost of the $22K is 70% 3DS.
Yeah, the Wii U only had like 3 years on the market before it kind of shuttered. Though this is important to people that like Pokemon. If you like transferring your Pokemon from the Game Boy Color to the Switch, you need the Pokemon Bank, which is on the 3DS eShop. So it's very important if you do have a 3DS to get on that eShop, get the Pokemon Bank, because basically, I don't know, if you know this, Dave, but you can transfer. It's a pain in the ass, but you can transfer your original Game Boy Pokemon all the way up to like Switch versions of the game by hopping from
transferring something on Nintendo being a pain in the ass when I saw the little Pikmin carrying stuff on my Wii before.
Yes, no. And that is how it is. It's a cool thing that the fact that it's possible is really cool, because you're talking about offline systems. But that will stop once the 3DS shop is closed.
Touch the two infrared points together like you had to for like player transfer or data transfer on Game Boy. Do you remember that?
Yeah. So I think the process is on your Game Boy, you have to have a save. You put it into a SP, which is backwards compatible. Then from the SP, you put the Game Boy Advance game into
27 steps to transfer it on 3DS.
Yeah. and it's you need two Game Boy. Yeah, Sarah's gone through this.
Okay.
So it is a
the cable.
Yeah, it is a process. But that process will basically be ending March 27th if you do not have the Pokemon Bank on your thing.
All right, Michael. So you got to tweet pictures of you guys doing these transfer things.
Yeah, Sarah's gonna have to bust out the 3DS, and then we're just gonna have to make sure it's downloaded, because we got to get that. And there's I think someone did the math. It's a couple hundred games that are going to be gone forever, that are either 3DS or Wii U exclusive. Especially when you come to the 3DS, like the dual screen thing makes it very hard for those games to transition to other consoles. So a lot of stuff will just basically be dying past the 27th. Moving on. Speaking of death, EA are delisting a couple Battlefield games. Battlefield 1943, Battlefield Bad Company 1, and Battlefield Bad Company 2 will be delisted from all storefronts on April 28th, and their online services will be going away on December 8th of this year. EA accidentally included Mirror's Edge in the original announcement, but pulled back on that and said it was included as an error, which makes sense because Mirror's Edge is a single-player game, so there would be no reason to delist it unless like soundtrack rights were an issue. This is funny though, Dave, because I don't know if you remember, like a month ago, I was like, I loaded up Battlefield 1943 on my PS3 and made sure I 100%ed it. I'm not saying I have a weird sixth sense when it comes to stuff getting shut down soon, but I did the same thing with the PS3, where I got into PS3 collecting and then they announced the store closure. Glad I got the 1943 trophies, because I only have until December 8th to get it. Any thoughts on this other than the fact that it's a PSA of like, hey, you have until December 8th to enjoy it. You have until April 28th to play to purchase it.
other than I'm surprised that some of these servers and services were still alive now. No.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I feel like that this is we're going to start seeing a little bit more of this, a lot more of this actually, in terms of as more stuff comes out. Services are being shut down just because stuff's getting outdated. It's probably hard to mess with it and the connections, and as the PS3 and 360 are kind of done and dying, there's no tangible point. I mean, you might have the rare unicorn game that still has like a super active community, but I mean, those are few and far between. You're not going to have a console version of Counter-Strike that's going to be successful for 10 years without any like reiteration of the game at all.
Yeah, so there's still somewhat active communities on the PS3 and 360 for these games, which is kind of hard to believe. Do you think this is me being cynical, but remember in 2042, they talked about bringing Battlefield Bad Company 1 and 2 maps into that in their like EA or Battlefield portal? Do you think...
Yeah, so probably the easiest way for them to do that, or the best selling way for them to do that, is to shut the other games down to make you come and pick up this. 100%.
Yeah, that's what I was getting to. Yeah. Like, do you think they looked at it of just like, man, people are still playing Bad Company, and also people are still playing those Bad Company maps in 2042. What if we just shut that down?
Yeah, especially with the players, I feel like the players now that they expect when you like bring nostalgic content in, like, or anything like that, or reskinned or repurposed content, that they expect it to be free. So if you're going to expect it to be free, which I guess, you could be right, could be wrong, could be indifferent, whatever your opinion on that is fine. Then there still is a cost. Mm-hmm. And the cost is the other stuff being shut down. Like, why would they put time, effort, and energy to do something into 2042 if you can just do it on Battlefield 3 or whatever?
Yeah. And that's something that EA probably looked at, of just like, hey, you know what? These servers cost not a ton of money, but I would imagine when it comes to like running old games, it probably gets more expensive every year in terms of not bandwidth, but just the old technology that you're using to run it. In terms of, I think you always mention, like, there's probably like a couple people on staff that like they're the only ones that know how to use this old ass technology and software, that are just like, we got to keep them on staff because they're the ones that can keep those servers running.
Yeah. And most of you know this now by listening to me, and if this is the first time you've listened to me, then sorry. Return on investment is a big deal to me. Like, putting effort in, getting something in return. Like, investing into something and getting a return. Obviously, is return on investment. If you're not getting enough of a continuous return on investment, ROI, like it's not worth it. Mm-hmm. Like, it's just not. I'm sorry for the 300 people that are probably still playing Battlefield Bad Company 1 or 2, and I get it. Like, maybe one
after this episode, so I'm gonna download them one more time.
Yeah, maybe you're going to, like, maybe that's the game that you play with your best friend that, refuses to buy a new system because he's the person that's like, why do I need a different system when this works totally fine and I play one game? Like, you can't do that forever. Like, I don't even know. Can you even buy a DualShock 3 on the open market right now? Like, into a like, I'm not. Yeah, like, anybody can get them. Like, I'm sure.
It's really hard. So you can, but the problem with like Amazon and eBay is a lot of fakes are out there, so you don't know if it's legit until you get it in your hands. But you can use a DualShock 4 and a DualSense on your PS3. So there's workarounds for that stuff, and Xbox hasn't put a new controller together in several years.
Right.
So
yeah. So I don't know. It's just it's time to move on. I'm not, as most of you know, like, I am not like a nostalgic person. Like, one thing comes out and something else goes away. Like, I'm good. I'm moving on. Like,
yeah, one thing I kind of get annoyed by this is when they delist games completely and they have single player campaigns that were technically going to be lost to time at that point. I wish companies would, I don't know if I need to blame the companies or players, in terms of like, companies probably don't want the idea that someone buys something that has a multiplayer menu that just doesn't work anymore, and they don't want to deal with the customer service nightmares of that, if people be like, yo, I bought this game for $5 and the multiplayer doesn't work anymore. But I don't know if I should blame the companies for being too scared about that, or I should blame players that probably would complain that they bought Battlefield Bad Company a year from now after the multiplayer has been decommissioned and are expecting that multiplayer to still be running. I hope these games don't leave Game Pass. I know they will because they're being delisted, and that's usually what happens. Because like they do have good, except for 1943, that's multiplayer only. Totally understand.
But
getting rid of that.
What if they put a Battlefield 1 or 2 mode into Battlefield 2042, or like ironically enough, just make a Battlefield game called Battlefield and just do what you want with it. Like stop with these numbered games. Like in this this version, like release a Battlefield that the base version of it, release a Call of Duty, release anything, Destiny, all of these, that the base version of these games are playable. You want other cool stuff, you want different stuff, you want a Battlefield, you want a Bad Company mode, $10. And you can play a version of Bad Company. Like hockey did it. NHL did it with like the NHL 94 mode. You had to play that on like NHL 20 to do it. And base MLB The Show did it with like retro mode. Like just give them another piece of content. Like move up in the world. Like progress forward.
Yeah,
stop playing stuff on PS2. Stop.
I wonder how much.
Or stop expecting things to work forever on PS2.
I wonder, like, especially when you're talking about on Xbox with backwards compatibility, all these are backwards compatible games. I wonder how much effort it would actually cost to just have them cut the games. Of just like, here's just the single player iteration of this. Make a Battlefield hopper of like, hey, here's the best of Battlefield the last 10 years single player campaigns. Just to put that out there. As opposed to just being like, hey, after April 28th. Or
rare replay did.
Yeah.
Just do that. Do that for Battlefield.
Yeah, here's all the single player campaigns. And I know a lot of people will be like, no one really gives a shit about the single player campaign. It's like, some people do. And also you're talking about like nostalgia and also just like hard work that hundreds, if not thousands of people put into these campaigns that are...
GoldenEye's the best example of this. Everybody's like, oh, this is so cool, like for 10 days. And then it's over. I haven't heard anybody say GoldenEye again since it, like, after 10 days after it came out on Game Pass and Switch.
Yeah.
Like, other than they picked it up to like, whoa.
But the idea that someone like, that doesn't own it today can't 5 years from now be like, shit, what? I want Battlefield Bad Company. I want to play that single player game.
The Capcom collection.
Yeah.
What was that one that just came out? It was like 13, like the Turtle collection.
Yeah, the
and there was another one
collection.
Yeah, like just do that kind of stuff. Like, yeah, sure, it looks like a money grab, but you're giving the players what they want. Like, that's the kind of stuff. I showed my brother, who's 10 years older than me, I showed him that Cowabunga collection. He's like, yeah, I'd totally buy that.
Yeah.
He's like, but then he also said, he's like, I'd probably play it for like 4 or 5 days and then never play it again.
Yeah, but it's just something, like basically that's how I am with my PS3. Where like I'm not playing these games every day, but every couple of months I'm like, shit, I kind of want to play Fat Princess. So I go back and I'll play it for like a day or two, and that's all I need. So I hope companies get better at this in terms of like either trusting the fan base not to freak out, like, oh, the multiplayer's not there, so I'm pissed. It's just like, hey, the single player campaign's still available. This will probably cost the Battlefield 1 and the Bad Company 1 and Bad Company 2 physical copies will probably get expensive, which is funny because they've always been in like that dollar bin.
But then they're not gonna work.
They'll work on Xbox. Like the single player campaign will still run.
Okay, even delisted.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
This will still let you download typically. So you'll still be able to go. Just you won't be able to buy them digitally. All right. Next story. Bella Ramsey gives a window for The Last of Us Season 2. The Ellie actress Bella Ramsey revealed the shooting of Season 2 for The Last of Us will likely begin filming towards the end of this year and the beginning of next year. Shooting and production for the show can almost span a year, according to Ramsey, so she doesn't expect the second season to air, or doesn't expect it to air till the end of 2024, early 2025. I'm guessing more 2025 on that.
Probably the same time, like February 2025. Like we got
That's usually how they
January 2025. Yeah, we got Last of Us in January 2023. So 2 years for season 2. I don't think is crazy because, like we've been talking about, season 1 was a risk. Like this was a risky show to do, and now it's proven well above expectations that it can hold its weight in a heavyweight ring with other shows. So I wouldn't be surprised if we hear as soon as season 2 is filmed, or season 2 and season 3 are being filmed simultaneously. anything to that aspect of it because they know what's going to happen with it. So like this is fine. Like this is what it's supposed to be. Like we didn't know what this show was or wasn't going to be. We didn't know the success of this show, and obviously it's going to be successful. And now they know it's going to be successful, which also involves an increase in the budget.
Yeah. And I kind of hope we get word on like episode count kind of early. Is it going to be 9 episodes again, or could they bump it up to 10 episodes, which is usually the standard for HBO? One episode could go a long way for the size of the story that they're telling. But especially, like without talking about spoilers, like, there's a few actors that are in this show that their time is very valuable, and depending on when they need to get rid of them, they can. So I would just want to know like episode counts, but that's just me being greedy because the show just ended and I'm really excited, for season 2. But yeah, the time frame makes sense. 2025 to me seems more feasible. I don't think HBO's really been known for launching shows in like November, December. It's usually launch a show in September, it ends in December, and then they take a couple weeks off, and then we get our January, February show. By
the way, side note that just totally dawned in my head, since today is March 22nd, we're not getting factions at the end of quarter 1.
No, we're not.
So
well, there's still time, Dave. They have like 9 days.
8 days, 9 days. Okay,
it could happen. GDC's happening right now. Maybe they announce it at the end of GDC. And I think that's a drop ball for factions. I mean, right now everyone wants Last of Us content. Could have done it. I don't. This summer, Dave. We're gonna just talk about it now. Then at this point, I'm just like, do you think it even?
What are they gonna shadow drop it in their June speaking?
What,
like when they're not E3 presentation?
I mean, I feel like they would have to, because what else do they have outside of Spider-Man this year?
The rumor is Spider-Man's coming in September. Yep. So if you wait until June and you drop this in July, aren't you cannibalizing Spider-Man possibly?
I think Spider-Man.
I don't think you are, but the proximity wise, yeah.
If it depends on when in September, but I think the problem is, do you kneecap factions? Because then in September, all those PlayStation players are going to move on to Spider-Man. So I don't think Spider-Man gets hurt in that scenario. I think factions.
I guess that's what I meant. Yeah.
I don't know if there's a right time or wrong time to release factions. I think right now would have been the right time, but beyond this, I don't know what the right or wrong path is for factions.
I mean, what's the next first-party thing that's coming?
Spider-Man.
So nothing announced.
No, nothing. There's a Horizon DLC in a couple weeks.
Oh, that's right. Okay, yeah.
Which I think is priced at $20 or $30 that this got revealed. But all their major studios have released stuff in the last couple years, and like Insomniac's the only one that like releases.
Sorry,
stuff.
MLB The Show's coming. My apologies.
Yes. But I don't know. Since it's been coming to Xbox, it just doesn't have the same like.
Yeah,
kick to
I
it,
agree.
That it used to. But yeah, Sucker Punch takes a really long time to develop games. Insomniac's releasing Spider-Man, so there's a chance the next first-party major game to come out after Spider-Man is Wolverine, which is also Insomniac, because they're just unstoppable as a studio right now. That's scary. That's kind of scary. And Xbox is fumbling the bag because they can't get shit out to save themselves.
At least Redfall and Starfield are dated. I mean, at least that's 2.
Yeah, and
there's
then
something else in there I'm forgetting about. So.
And then after that, then it's like, oh shit, what do they do?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen some Hellblade stuff today or yesterday from GDC.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
but the Hellblade stuff still makes it seem like that game's far away.
Yeah, that's not anything that's talked about at GDC usually feels a little far away.
it was like tech demo-y stuff of like, look what Unreal Engine can do, and it's just like, oh shit, this is how your guys are gonna show off Hellblade. Sweet, great. But speaking of Redfall, Redfall was once coming to PS5. This is out of IGN France. The Arcane Austin studio head said that Redfall was being developed for PS5 before Microsoft bought Bethesda. The head of the studio, would later say that it worked out for the best, as it's one less complexity to worry about in developing Redfall. But Dave, do you think Microsoft was like, shut the fuck up, dude? after this got
No,
up.
I think this is a no shit Sherlock moment. Like, you don't think that these games were in pre-development or being developed before they got purchased?
No, for sure, 100%. But right now, when Microsoft and Sony are fighting over Activision Blizzard, do you think Microsoft's like, you didn't have to say that? Like,
so I asked you to put this in.
Yeah.
And the reason I asked you to put this in because I have multiple questions that I want to ask you based on this. Typically, you're the one that kind of pushes this, so I'm going to be the one that pushes this. So, the studio sometimes always monsters, correct? That's
yes.
be it like a
Bungie people.
Yep. And they were making we believe they're making some kind of competitive esports game. Mm-hmm. That's the rumor. And now they have signed a partnership with Sony to do it exclusively on their platform, correct?
Yeah, I believe Sony's going to own the IP. Is how that's working? Yeah.
Do you think that at one point in time this game was in development for Xbox as well?
That one might be tricky because the studio was relatively new when they were acquired. So I would probably say there's like a 25% chance that they were already working with Xbox hardware.
Do you think that Bungie's new IP that they've been working on was at one point in time being developed for PC, or do you think it is still coming to PC?
Yes, and I would also imagine it was also being developed on Xbox because Bungie's such a big studio. All their games are really complex, so it takes years of development for them to get started.
Do you feel that Sony has the right to tell them what to do with that IP now?
100%. They own them, and it's the same thing with the Bethesda deal.
How do you feel about, now second question is, how do you feel about these acquisitions that are being made? Are you for or against Microsoft buying Activision, Microsoft buying Blizzard, Blizzard, and Microsoft buying Bethesda, and Sony buying Bungie? Are you in favor of them or not in favor of these happening?
I'm gonna shit on your question and pick the middle, because the consolidation of the industry is scary, but there's a lot of these studios I don't know if they would survive on their own. So Activision Blizzard, they sought after someone to acquire them because they're like, we can't do this or we're going to fall apart.
Okay, that's fair. So are you mad at Bethesda for saying yes or for Microsoft for offering?
I don't think you can be mad at either one of them in that scenario of just like, but it takes two to tango in this scenario. Mm-hmm. So like, Microsoft. So
no, that's the question I've been asking people today because I'm seeing all this stuff and I'm getting annoyed with, okay, so if, in the TV world, HBO paid for Last of Us.
Yeah.
And it's exclusively on HBO. Like, you can't watch it anywhere else. And you have to pay for HBO to watch it. If you want to watch Ted Lasso, you have to pay for Apple TV to watch it. If you want to watch Mandalorian or you want to watch the Star Wars stuff, you have to pay for it, to pay for Disney. If you like all these other things that are randomly owned by and why isn't there a problem with it now to where somebody's like, I cannot believe that Microsoft bought Bethesda and now they're forcing Redfall to only be on Xbox. They fucking own the company.
Yeah, no, and that's the funny thing is it's like they bought it. The company agreed to be bought. It's not like they're being forced to be acquired. And it just happens.
And the whole exclusivity argument, Xbox wants you to play it on anywhere you want to play it. They're working diligently to figure out a way for you to play it without a console. And they're almost there.
Yeah. I didn't put in a story, but Microsoft has signed a 10-year deal with the people that do the streaming on the Switch. Like they're trying to get their shit kind of everywhere. So there is a ton of stuff.
So Sony paid Insomniac at the time to make Spider-Man. Sony paid Capcom to make Street Fighter for them. Sony pays Square Enix to only make Final Fantasy for them. But now, when Microsoft buys somebody, this is dumb. This is crap. Like, why?
Yeah, I think the reason... So I'll just, do the devil's advocate bullshit. I think in this scenario, the headline makes it seem way worse because... Tomb Raider wasn't going to be made unless Xbox bought the exclusivity for a year. Street Fighter, as far as we know, they weren't going to really make another Street Fighter the last two times, except PlayStation was like, here's money, make it for us.
Kojima wasn't going to be able to make Death Stranding without money from somebody.
And this is the head of Bethesda being like, yeah, we had the money for Redfall. We were actively developing Redfall for PS5, and then we were purchasing how to kill it. So it kind of... Timing on this is kind of everything because this is also Microsoft is yelling in the UK courts PlayStation makes exclusives and prevents them from coming to their platform. And then this is an instance where it's like Bethesda was making it for PS5, but I'm not saying I agree with people that are upset with it, but it's just funny.
It appears on the surface that Microsoft, whether it's public relations spin or not public relations spin, like Microsoft's doing everything they can to sit there and say, look, it's not only going to be on Xbox. They've tentatively signed deals with Nintendo for Call of Duty. Whether you think that's just a shill move or not a shill move, PC is still a viable platform versus you have to go buy this specific white PlayStation 5 box that costs $400 or $500 if you want to play Spider-Man 2. At least minimally, Microsoft is whether you like it or don't like it, Microsoft saying option A, Series S, option B, Series X, option C, PC, option D, Game Pass Cloud, a
part that people forget is it comes to Game Pass, but you can still buy the game individually for the full price if you want it too. Yes. So it's not even they're locking you into Game Pass. It's like
if somebody wants to play because Final Fantasy 14 can still be played on PS4, correct?
Yes, for now.
If somebody wants to play Final Fantasy 16. Their only option and choice is a minimum of $400 investment in a new box. That's their only choice.
Yeah.
Period. That is not the only choice that Microsoft's giving. So please stop with this fucking exclusivity, buying exclusivity. It is driving me crazy to the point where I don't want to look at Twitter anymore because these people are just being dumb because they have their white PlayStation box and they can't play Redfall, which they wouldn't anyways.
Well, that's how it's always been in terms of like the people that are complaining about Redfall. They're not going to say shit when Wolverine comes out exclusively for PS5. In 2024, like they're gonna be quiet.
If you only buy your groceries at one particular grocery store brand, you are devaluing the market of the other grocery stores. You can't sit there and if you're an Amazon Prime member and a local business near you goes out of business, you can't sit there and say, look at what Amazon's doing to people when you're giving them money. You can't do that. And that is being hypocritical. I'm sorry if I'm pissing anybody off, but if you think like that and you support the Spider-Man thing and you support the Activision or the Insomniac purchase and you're all in favor of it and you support the Bungie purchase, but you're against the Bethesda purchase, you are a hypocrite.
Yeah, and that's the thing is it's like, hey, if you want to, make Starfield on every platform, Xbox would do that, but you got to give them Spider-Man or something. Is Final
Fantasy 16 going to work on PC?
I believe so. I just don't know if it's day one.
That's my mistake then. I'm sorry. So, but remove the sentence. Take the sentence that I said. Remove Final Fantasy 16 and insert Spider-Man. Remove Final Fantasy 16 and insert God of War. They didn't own Insomniac when they made the first Spider-Man. Sony has, the main reason that we think that Insomniac was purchased was because they were worried that Facebook or a VR company was going to make a huge investment into them, and they blocked that from happening. And Insomniac hasn't done really any VR content since then, when they were almost considered a top 6 VR company, trending VR company as VR was moving up. And they're not doing, to our knowledge, they're not doing anything VR.
So for 16, it's only coming to PS5. And then after 6 months, it could come to PC. So
it could come or will come.
They've been kind of murky on it, but they said it won't come until 2024 at the earliest. So there's no defined date. It's just PlayStation bought 6 months platform exclusivity. So it will eventually come to PC.
And then when's the last time? And I hate people pulling quotes from 2 years ago. I haven't been paying much attention to Phil Spencer's conversations, but I don't think that he's even spoke recently about exclusivities. I think he's kind of stopped with that conversation, and more or less that he's pivoted to the point of where he's like, we want our stuff to be accessible as many places as possible, and we're trying to do that as best as we can through Game Pass. That's been what I feel like his message has been.
Except for Starfield, there was recent stuff of him just being like, well, we never announced platforms originally, which is true. They never really announced platforms for Starfield.
Neither did Bethesda when they were owned when they weren't owned by Microsoft. That's what I mean. So it's
been up in the air. Right now, the discussion has been.
If you don't think Deathloop was being made for Xbox before Sony came to them and said, hey, no, we like that, we want a year of it, or more, or we want all of it, you're crazy. Like, I'm sorry. Like, these companies make it, and the architecture of all three of these systems, consoles and PCs, Xbox, PlayStation, PC, is so similar now that this line that he said it worked out best as one less complexity to worry about. That's probably after he got his head smashed by somebody.
Yeah, well, the only thing I can think of complexity-wise is just manpower that it would take to work on it. It's just like, hey, now we don't have to have the team split off to make sure it runs and has DualSense, like features and shit.
It's like if you ask yourself this question, if your parents, you grew up in a house for 25 years, you lived in your parents' house for 20 years, 21 years, 18, 25, whatever, X number of years, and you really have a physical attachment to this house, and like all of a sudden your parents are the only people living in the house, and they've owned the house for like 40 years, and they're selling it. Are you mad at your parents for selling it, or are you mad at the person that bought it?
You could be mad at both, but it won't matter.
Right, it still happened.
Yeah.
And guess what? You can't go in that house anymore.
Unless you parasite it and build a tunnel under the house, and then you live under there, and you're good.
Yeah, it's just...
Yeah. I think this just became more of a story because of the timing of, like... I would bet money that the person that did this interview with IGN France probably got a call from someone at Bethesda, like, you didn't need the... Like, there was no point of saying what you said. Yeah. Like, we can't take it back. It's already been said, but, like, when Indiana Jones is talked about next, shut the fuck up. Like, do not say it's been actively developed for 2 years on PlayStation and it's not anymore. Though Indiana Jones will probably be on all platforms because Disney would probably... No, but Disney is okay with Spider-Man being exclusive and Wolverine being exclusive. So yeah, I don't even know what to do with Indiana Jones at this point.
Yeah.
I don't know.
If for somehow like something happens with Ubisoft in the next 6 to 9 months before Avatar comes out, you don't think that something funky could happen to Avatar? Like,
what's funny is PlayStation. The reports are out after like the recent financial call, I think, on PlayStation side, that they're like, we still have $5 billion for acquisitions, and people are like, why haven't they pulled the trigger yet? Because they probably already know who they want to buy, and it's like, well, because we're in a court case with Microsoft about exclusivities.
So we can't go buy another company right now.
Yeah, we got to hold back, and as soon as this deal gets put through, we're announcing we're buying Capcom or something, or like... Yeah.
On the heels of Sony giving X millions of dollars to WB for an exclusive stick in Hogwarts.
Hey, it's apparently a really okay mission.
I don't even know. That's why I just like, it's just my glorified way of saying a wand or something.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, that's all I have for the news.
All right, so it doesn't appear anything's been delayed except for this Microsoft Activision merger.
It was actually delayed till May 22nd, I believe.
I didn't even know that when I said that.
Yeah, the decision in the UK got delayed like a week or two.
So what we're playing and watching, I'll go first. Mine's brief. Like as most of you saw, like I was able to clear the raid. I was trying to stream it as much as possible. I've had some funky internet stuff going on. Like my speeds are fine, my bitrate's crashing, so I don't know what the heck's going on with that. But yeah, I don't really know at this point in time. Like I don't really know how I feel about Destiny. I kind of like I feel like I kind of say this every year, but it's the raid was cool. Like the location, everything looked really cool. The completion of it was fine. I feel like it's one of the more accessible raids that they've released in a long time. So like there's a couple things like that. It's just kind of in this weird spot just to see how it grows and evolves the rest of this year. The rumors swirling around it being like it's supposed to be they were gonna make one big final shape thing, which is what the next expansion is supposed to be called, is Final Shape, and all of Lightfall stuff was supposed to be part of that, and then they decided to split it apart and try to do Infinity War, Marvel's Infinity War, whatever Endgame style thing to it. If you believe that to be true or not to be true. It's been in the news heavily again as well with the passing of Lance Reddick. The unexpected passing of Lance Reddick, who's done, phenomenal actor as well as voice actor. He's Commander Zavala, the head of the Vanguard in Destiny, and there's been a ton of like in-game tributes to him, as well as questions about what they are or aren't going to do with with his character. I'm also curious to how much voice lines he's already done, like how many seasons is already possibly done, because they actively develop way in advance, and we've always heard that some of the voice lines are recorded years in advance. So I'll be very curious to that, because as an example, Lance Reddick is the voice of something in the Percy Jackson animated series that's coming to Disney Plus. It's not even out yet, and in the entire season's done. So it sucks that he passed away. A phenomenal human being, a phenomenal person. In terms of even done Cicero, or I'm saying his name wrong, but he was in Horizon. Yeah. As you know, he was in both Horizon games. You know, he's obviously been in John Wick and everything like that. So that's been a ton of stuff around that has been really cool. And just seeing any kind of gaming community in general, to the point where when his wife released a statement, she specifically mentioned the Destiny community because they sought after and found who she was on social media and was reaching out to her. I'm sure other communities have done it as well. I just follow the Destiny community much more intimately than other communities. So yes, that is sucky that he's done that he passed, and natural causes for a 60-year-old black man is more par for the course than less lately, unfortunately. So please, rest in peace, Lance Reddick. Did pick up Metroid Remastered. Haven't had a chance to start it yet. I didn't have a hard time getting a physical copy.
They seem to be in stores now. They're available now.
I talked to Angela, and she's like, "Yeah, I just did a Best Buy pickup for you. Here you go." I was like, "Okay."
You didn't have to pay $80 on eBay like some people were doing, which is crazy.
So yeah, I bought it physically because I might be something that I lend to somebody else, because it's a classic Metroid game. So then like I said, messed around Destiny a little bit more. Didn't really watch much of the tournament. I watched a little bit of if I heard there was a really good game going on, the NCAA tournament. Watched the end of that. Just doesn't seem to carry the weight. Completely oblivious to the fact that World Baseball Classic was going on and USA was playing Japan. That ended last night. Japan won the title for that. So I feel a little bit disconnected from baseball starting up soon as well, but I still feel disconnected in general from that. I've been looking at some other stuff and seeing some stuff. I want to go back to. I guess at this point in time on Game Pass, I probably just need to start Jedi Fallen Order over to play the next one. Just because I think it's $3.99 on Steam, and it's also on Game Pass right now. Other than that, Angela and I haven't had the head to watch Ted Lasso or anything like that. Mandalorian, Ted Lasso. There's a bunch of stuff that we want to start, and I'll be like, "Hey, you want to watch this?" And she's like, "No," and I'm like, "Okay." So it could be post putting our dog down, and there's just a lot going on in general. Weather's been ridiculous too, cold and warm and wind, and it's messing with all of us. So, but yeah, that's kind of my last week or so.
Yeah, mine got a little bit of video game time in between watching episodes of True Blood, because I'm rewatching that and Sarah's watching it for the first time, so I've just been reacting to her reactions to a sometimes cringy TV show. But I was in a weird mood where I just kind of wanted to play a mindless shooter game. So I ended up playing Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 on a PlayStation. Played that for probably 2 hours. Took me a long time to get back into the rhythm of it, of just the twitchy shooter stuff. To where it made me feel like an old man, so I'm gonna go to Battlefield 2042. So I hopped on the Xbox, downloaded 2042, and started to play that. And I was really, really into Battlefield 2042, except for the fact that conquest matches just last way too long, half hour.
Is that on Plus now too?
Yes, it is on both, but I went over to Xbox just to
because it's on Game Pass, right?
So I'm enjoying that, though again, conquest modes just take way too long to get through. But for the most part, as someone who is coming to Battlefield 2042 a year after it's been released, it's pretty fun, the map design is all right.
I have a coworker that keeps telling me I need to play it again.
Yeah, I don't do voice chat or anything like that, so I don't know how the community is. I just mute that and just do my own thing. But it seems like a solid game. I'm sure there's someone who's like, well, I've been playing since day one and it's been a shit show, and it's like, that's cool, but playing it now, it seems like it's a pretty solid entry in the series. But that's also me playing like probably another 2-3 hours of it. So I don't really care about progression in Battlefield games like I do in Call of Duty. Because it's more about like the objectives as opposed to Call of Duty, where it's like, oh, I want to have the best kit and be number one in team deathmatch. In Battlefield 2042, I'm just trying to do the objective, so I don't really care what gun I have, because I'm just trying to capture objectives and just use whatever basic attachments I have.
Well, in Battlefield, I mean, I haven't messed with 2042 in a long time, but Battlefield typically has you pick like a certain type of thing, like medic or
and then you can
like
customize
a small
the
class, and within that you have some weapon customization, which also involves unlocking the more you play, the better, the more fun it is, and the more asset you are.
But it's not really like a something you have to really worry about, if that makes sense, in terms of like you don't have to get too deep into weapon customization stuff as long as you're doing the objectives. So that's what I've been enjoying from that experience. Also, I like that Twitch had just turned into a True Blood chat room for a couple people. But yeah, that's two major things I was playing. And then I also was able to play the Exoprimal beta, which, Dave, you didn't mention it, so I'm assuming you didn't get any time with it.
I did not. I kind of forgot, actually.
Okay.
These are the things that you have to message me about.
I put it in our Discord, Dave. But yeah, so the Exoprimal had a beta. First impressions from it, there's only one mode available, and it was like the PvPvE mode. So basically it was a team of 5 players going against AI dinosaurs. But you also have an opponent team that are doing the same objectives, and it's basically a race to the end of the level to complete all the objectives. You don't.
Can you mess with the other team?
So yes, so you will see ghost versions of them while you're playing, so you can see exactly kind of where they are on the map or how far they have progressed. And if you fall behind, you can send like stronger dinosaurs to them to like try and catch up. And that aspect is actually pretty interesting. Gameplay stuff in terms of like different classes is there. Didn't really get to dive too deep into it. There wasn't a ton of options available there, but I was mostly playing the tank class, enjoyed like its weapons and just like its basic mechanics. And the shooting felt a little loose. Like I'm hoping it can like tighten that up a little bit, but the actual gameplay loop in this one mode was pretty entertaining, and I found it to be fun and a different take on, you know, some of the traditional like multiplayer modes that we're used to seeing. So I didn't know what type of vibe I would get from the game, because I haven't been watching too many trailers outside of the big ones, but it kind of having a Starship Troopers vibe to it it was something I was kind of into. Like it kind of did the "Do you want to know more?" presentation from those movies, and I kind of fuck with that. Like I do enjoy like the vibe they're going for, and Johnny apparently he didn't like it, and I don't know. It's something that like it's coming to Game Pass day one. So
wait. If it put Johnny as a boy to sleep, it's like a 9 out of 10.
Yeah, it's true, Johnny. You fall asleep during even good games, so that's not a metric for you. But this is one of those things where, like, after playing the beta, would I spend $60 to $70 on this game? Maybe not, but it is coming to Game Pass day one, so I will download it and probably enjoy my time with it for Game Pass. So it's definitely on my radar. Like it was before, but now that I know how it plays and some of the modes, like I'm more interested than I was before. Now it'll just be a matter of me convincing my PlayStation friends to buy it so then we can cross-play, because it's cross-platform play, because every game should be if you have multiplayer.
I got some notification on my PlayStation today about, do you want to allow cross-platform invitations?
I
was like, I thought that was interesting. So.
Yeah, I didn't know. I didn't think those would come like from the main system.
It was like a privacy policy update or something like that. So.
Okay. I actually kind of like and don't like that aspect. I like it just being up to a per game basis.
Yeah, I agree. I'm sure you might be able to turn it off.
Oh yeah, for sure.
After you accept it, but I just thought it was interesting when you said that. It dawned on me when I turned my PlayStation on today.
Yeah, I haven't seen that option just yet pop up on my PlayStation. But yeah, Exoprimal, like I'm interested in playing it through Game Pass. I'll probably need to see a little bit more if I'm going to end up like considering buying it on PlayStation. But again, coming to Game Pass, I'll at least download it. Just gotta hope that I can get my friends to pick it up.
With the Discord integration, whatever they're playing it on, they can just talk now.
Yeah.
Whether you're on PlayStation, Xbox, or PC, like you can just join a Discord chat and group up and play.
Yeah, I wish I could get my PlayStation. I wish it was coming to PlayStation Plus, because then my friends will play it and then I'll be able to cross-platform. I'm at the point where Xbox Series S's were like $120 at some stores like in the last couple of weeks, and I'm almost been tempted to just buy 2 of them and just give them to friends. Of just like, yo, here, we're Game Pass in the game.
Here, I bought you the box. You buy the subscription.
Yeah, exactly. Like, here you go. It's a Series S. It's not going to run as great, but shut up. It's free. and just do that. But yeah, that's pretty much everything I've been playing and watching. I did get a Switch game for review, but I just got it today, so I'll talk about it next week. Okay.
All right, so questions and comments. You can send us questions using hashtag AskDigitalDays. I would love to hear, and I know on a little bit of a rant about this, like exclusivity thing, but so the question I asked at the end, are you mad at the companies for buying, and this can go for anybody, are you mad at the companies for buying another company, or are you mad that the other company said yes to the purchase? Because circling back to it, like Bethesda was seemingly doing okay, ZeniMax was seemingly doing all right, and for whatever reason they either silently put themselves on the market, or Microsoft came to them and wrote a little number on a napkin and gave it to them, and they still said yes.
Do you feel betrayed by Bethesda for accepting an acquisition?
Yeah, so I'm really curious, like in that aspect, who's the one that you're the most irritated with? The purchaser, the person that gave him the number, or the person that accepted the number? Like I'm genuinely curious about that, because it seems like there's a lot of this vitriol, like hatred of either way, but it's okay in other economic climates, but just not in the video game climate. I don't understand that. But Will writes in, if you could take one thing from the UK to enjoy and then give the UK something from the US you hate, what would that be and why? I didn't realize about the thing you give to the US and hate. Man, I didn't realize it was hate. So for me, right off the bat, like the thing I would want to bring from the UK to here is the 4-day work week.
Is that an actual thing in the UK? I know some European country. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very, very heavily done. Yeah. So like I would like the 4-day work week, and everything, all the data that's coming out of the 4-day work week is that they're more productive. And this is not like 4 10s, like this is 4 8s, so it's like a 32-hour work week or something.
Yeah.
They've physically, tangibly reduced the actual work week. The thing that I currently am irritated with that I would give to the UK is U.S. politics.
Yeah, but it can't be an even exchange because UK politics are not much better. So
yeah.
Yeah. So what I would probably do that would be an even exchange is I would like to take how UK handles TV shows, specifically like British TV shows, and I would like to give how the US handles TV shows over in terms of UK shows, British shows. They tend to just end a lot sooner and don't get dragged on as much outside of Doctor Who. Usually if a show's really good, they'll give you like 1 or 2 seasons and then they're done. They move on, never talk about it again. And in the US, most of our shows go on for 5 seasons too long, and then they get rebooted and then we have to deal with them again. So strictly pop culture wise, I would say I would love to exchange those ideologies for how like TV shows work. 'Cause I love when I find like a BBC show or just a general British show that's like, hey, here's 2 or 3 really good seasons and then we're never going to touch this again, as opposed to most like US comedies. I mean, just like how they treated The Office for one. to where like by the time you get to the end of US Office, the US version of The Office, it's like half the cast left, and there's a bunch of people you don't care about.
Yeah, so like as a response, so like this is my sweater in Twitch goes, companies buying others makes me think you risk writers and artists' creative liberties. I would argue that maybe you can expand on them with a company with more money.
The thing that usually happens though is those people that get acquired, they take a paycheck and then they fuck off and make their own company, which leads to like the thing they were working at kind of dying a slow death, and then they get to do their own thing with the new money that they have. Some
spiritual success of it, yeah.
So there's definitely a give or take. I would say to this aspect, you probably get like a degradation of the IPs that were once at the company.
But do you think like Hi-Fi Rush would exist without this purchase happening?
Hi-Fi Rush was probably already in development. So we probably would have gotten it potentially. But we don't know if it would have ever left like a concept stage potentially.
Right.
So it would be hard to know, but there is a chance that Hi-Fi Rush does not get the platform that it got. If it wasn't for Microsoft being like, hey, we're just going to shadow drop it because we gave enough resources to do this.
And then he or she, I'm sorry, are adding as like, but what if they're limited by the company buying them? Then they leave.
Yeah, and that's usually what happens. Yeah, so Hi-Fi Rush is in development since 2017, so it was at least a before acquisition start, which means it was being developed for PlayStation, but Tango Gameworks were smart enough not to tell people that they were actively developing it for PlayStation before it went exclusive. So that just goes back to, the other one of just like, hey, Redfall developer, don't talk. But yeah. The only good thing is like when a studio gets acquired, you usually see a bunch of new studios spawn because they do get limited by the new company buying them, but they usually get a good fat paycheck.
But we're also, unless we're missing it, like you pay attention to this, I pay attention to this, we follow enough people. I'm not seeing like a mass exodus of Bethesda.
I mean, Tango Gameworks just lost their head of the studio, Shimigami.
That's because one of his last games sucked.
Yeah, it kind of sucked, but also that could have just been Bethesda just sucking themselves. But like you saw that person leave. I know we're gonna get a bunch from Activision Blizzard.
Well, yeah, because the company's toxic.
Exactly. So we'll definitely see that spawn. I mean, some studios have closed and there have been layoffs at Bethesda. So like we definitely have seen that aspect of it.
But do you think that those could have been even higher without the purchase? I do.
It depends on what work that they were being done. Like, because some of those studios were the like auxiliary studios, the artillery studios, and they are less needed when you go into a big company.
Agreed.
So some of them might have had a better chance of surviving under that aspect. But it's one of those things that we would just like, all we could do is guess and hypothesize about like what could have been or that. But I definitely think it is a give or take situation in terms of like, hey, you're going to lose some people. Some people are going to stick around and see how things go. The scary thing with the Microsoft stuff is right now Microsoft seems very friendly, developer friendly, audience friendly, and that is not who Microsoft is as a company, and they've never been like that. So we don't know if all these Microsoft acquisitions are going to be bad 5-10 years down the road when they start closing studios or changing how games are developed. And you could say the same thing about PlayStation. What if they don't like Bungie anymore in 5-10 years? What if Bungie's next multiplayer
Or what if
game...
their attempt at 10 live service games and all 10 of them flop? Like, there's going to be some major sacrifices. We saw some major stuff happen when they tried to do, like, Guns Up and Drawn to Death and something else. Like, we saw a huge, like, restructuring of Sony at the time. Like, so it doesn't mean that, either way. It's just... Unfortunately, it's the way the business is at the moment, and the companies feel like the hot ticket thing right now is to stay relevant, is to be acquired.
Yeah.
All companies.
Yeah. Right now, every sector is just looking to merge and consolidate the industry. And in a couple years, a lot of those same people are going to be like, shit, what did we do? and it will probably be a problem in the future. But right now, it's keeping companies afloat, and it's at least spawning different companies. I mean, because you could be like an Ubisoft, where Ubisoft's bleeding talent because people are like, we can't be here anymore, and Ubisoft's like, hold on, we might be acquired, and they're banking on an acquisition while losing a bunch of talent because they don't know what the fuck they're doing. I don't know. The industry kind of seems like a mess, but also like really healthy at the same time. Like there's money in the industry, but it's just being funneled in weird ways.
Yeah. All right, so that is our show for this week. Our socials, you can follow us on Twitter at Digital Days Pod is for the main podcast. At the first MJC is Michael's. At Good Dave Hunt is myself. Our Facebook group and our Discord server are linked in the show notes. Please consider joining Discord. So that's where some more of the conversations are happening. I would love to see some more of the voice chats. I can make more voice chat rooms if we need to. We can make things exclusively, specifically for that. Michael's been doing a great job updating trailers as things are coming out. And it's not just game stuff; like there's movie stuff in there as well, and TV show and all that stuff that's in there. So I would love to kind of have that conversation piece and start having a little bit more of a focal point on Discord. But, as well as there's a Facebook group there too, and Twitter, as we can try to have those conversations in multiple places. Like I mentioned at the beginning of the show, patreon.com/digitaldaysgaming is where you can support us financially if you choose to. There are different tiers there that you feel free to check those tiers out. And with that is all I have. You got anything else, bud?
Nope, just Dave, you got to change MooBot. Anytime that thing tweets out.
Oh yeah,
that's ancient. No, that's pretty much it. I'll have a review of Post Void, which just came to Switch next week, and I'm just sad I missed the Diablo beta this past weekend.
It was closed beta. You had to buy like a double-decker chicken sandwich or something. You had to buy like a heart attack on without a bun.
There's a KFC not too far from me, so I fucked up.
But it's an open beta this weekend.
It's perfect. I'll play. Hopefully, Dave will be able to find some time for Diablo as well.
Yeah,
and we'll talk about it.
Should be an open beta this weekend, but you had to buy some double-decker thing from KFC or pre-order the game, I heard.
Shit, I haven't had a double down in years, so maybe I'll...
Yeah, double down, that's what it's called. Sorry. So, all right, I hope everyone has a great week. Keep moving forward.
Don't be a dick. See ya.